Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Monday Night Football taking place on a Wednesday night, so I suppose this should be Wednesday Night Football. The following that you're about to hear is an interview conducted by myself, Sam Meakin, and Craig Leach with former Hibs and Scotland striker Garry O'Connor. We very much hope that you enjoy it. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for joining us, Garry.
You're welcome.
Let's start at the beginning because it's the easiest place to start. How did you yourself sign in for Hibs as a youth player come about?
Well, obviously I was playing youth football. Probably in the Edinburgh League. That's where I probably got noticed. It was. You could see from an early age that I was more advanced. I was powerful. I was stronger than the rest of the boys at my age. So. So I went to the best teams in Edinburgh. At the time was Hutchie, Granton. I don't know if they've got a team now. And really, it was Donald Park and John Park at the time who liked what they seen. I played with Deeks as well at Granton and at Hutchie. So, the partnership kind of started from then. I would be the dogged one who'd do a bit running, and Deeks would be the one who got all the glory and scored the goals. It never changed all the way through our career, but you could tell from an early age that I was big, strong, fast, powerful, and that's really what helped me to go into Hibs and get a contract really.
Your debut came really quickly, just before your 18th birthday. Was that a surprise to you getting first team experience so quickly, and do you think that was because of your mentality or because, as you mentioned there, your physicality being ahead of everybody else at your age group?
Yeah, I think if you look into it, when I was young I didn't get time to think about anything. It was a case of playing youth football, and then it was a case of playing a few under 21 games, and I was right in. So it was. As it goes in football, if you're young enough, you're good enough, and Alex McLeish must have thought I was good enough to give me a wee try, and it worked out for me.
As you mentioned there, Alex McLeish was the man in charge when you were brought into Hibs, and he gave you your debut. What are your memories of working under him at Hibs? Because there's a couple of other times you worked under him. We'll cover a wee bit later on.
Yeah, I struck a great relationship with Alex and Andy Watson. Me and Deeks used to, get up to no good, basically. And I think just about the stadium, because we didn't have this training ground at that stage, and if we were told to do jobs, we wouldn't do them, eh? So it was a case of like, I think Alex liked that, a couple of guys off the, who had came through Port Seton, and Deeks had came through Drylaw, and they've played together at a young age. A little one and a big one, basically, and I think McLeish liked that. I think that helped me in good stead as well.
Did you sort of, to an extent, act like you had arrived as soon as you were in the dressing room? It doesn't seem like there was ever that fear factor with you guys of going in there with more experienced players.
Well, from where I'm from, I'm just obviously from Port Seton. I was always over the park playing with the older guys, and taking the mickey out of them. So it was a case of, and with Deeks maybe being for Drylaw, he was probably doing the same, but it was a case of, we were used to it. We were used to getting kicked, and on my advantage, I was big and I was strong, and to look at players like, John Hughes, Mick Patterline and Duttleyman, it wasn't a case I was after their spot, but I was watching them in training, I was watching, learning for them in training, and I knew if not I could be better. I knew I was learning something from these guys. It was great experience, and I was after their spot as well. But that's just normal in football. That's how it goes.
Okay, Alex McLeish left no too long after giving you your debut, and he was followed up by Frank Soze. Before we deal with Soze as a manager, can you tell us a wee bit what he was like as a player in the dressing room and on the training ground?
Frank was actually quite quiet. He spoke really good English. How to describe Frank is a gentleman, a big friendly giant, and he was a giant of a player. This guy could find you if for a corner flag to a corner flag. It was that direct. So it was an absolute pleasure to to play with Frank, and I had a good relationship with him. You know, off the field, he was quiet, but he would also, you know, you could tell he could play at a very high level. You know, Hibs were lucky to have him. They must have done some great business to get him at the club, and just speaking to you through games, speaking to you in training. If he thought, you know, you could do something different, Frank would tell you. He would take you aside. He would have the time and patience with you, and he would speak you through a different way, and that was always great, and that stood him in good stead to go into his coaching career, I'm sure.
His reign as manager was obviously very short-lived, though. What were the reasons you think it didn't work out for Frank?
The plain and simple reason is that it was, you know, the team was getting, you know, the older players were leaving, and basically they were having to start from scratch again, and that was basically the young boys coming on the block. You know, it was all us coming through the ranks, because I think in Frank's day the wage bill was massive for Hibs. You know, it was a huge chunk of money, and players were on maybe 10-12 grand a week. That's unheard of at Hibs, you know, if you look at the structure of the club now. So I don't think it was fair on Frank. You know, he never had enough time. You know, I've done it myself. For stepping from a player and being an iconic player, you know, at the club, and then going into coaching. So you're the club captain, and you're going to be the manager. I find it very difficult for that to work. And looking at it to work, it's, you know, all of a sudden you're the captain, your manager, your gaffer. It's a strange one for me. I don't think it works. You know, but the club had to do something with Frank. He was coming to the end of his career, and you know, they had to give him a chance, because he was that much a hero at the club.
I remember at the time there was a lot of, obviously I was quite a young Hibs fan at the time, and that's when I really started to understand football, and obviously Sozzy was like an idol, kind of folk my age, and there was always a sort of a feeling for Hibs fans that he wasn't given enough time. Would you, obviously being a player in the squad, would you agree with that, or do you feel that the change had to, because I remember it was one win in like 15, and that was against Stranraer in the Scottish Cup. Yeah. Obviously there was players there that I, you know, looking back, probably weren't good enough. You know, yourself coming through, you're wanting to learn for guys that can bring your game on. And I think there was somebody like Hurtado was there, you know, and he was, you know, he's a bit of an icon amongst Hibs fans for different reasons. But like I say, do you feel that the club were too quick to let him go, given his status at the club, or do you think it was the right decision in hindsight?
It's a real tough one for me to put into perspective, you know, because being Frank, you know, Frank was using me as a player as well. You know, I was getting starts under him. I was eventually scoring goals under him. I think I got my first goal under Frank for Hibs, and you know, it's just a funny one. It's not realistic to go 15 games, you know, or 14 games without a win. There has to be serious talks at board level, you know, understand the game. But such as a manager as Frank, you know, could have maybe offered them something else, you know, to be at the club. I'm not sure, you know, something like an ambassador of the club or something like that. I just say it's not quite working. But the club's the club, and the club was moving in a different direction at that time, and it was basically going into young players, and they were trying to fiddle a wage bill about as well. So I can understand why they sacked him. Yeah.
Bobby Williamson then replaced Frank after his departure, and you further established yourself as the man leading the line at Easter Road in his first few months, going on a tremendous goal-scoring run. Did you feel like you'd really made it then?
Yeah. I think I didn't think, you know, in my career that I'd really made it. I'd set myself goals, you know, every season where I wanted to be at. You know, and at the start of it, I found it quite tough. You know, and as you said, there was a lot of players coming in and out of Hibs, and being a young boy as well. That's where you need, you know, strikers with a bit of experience to try and guide you on. But it was, you know, the ball was put in my court, and I was the number 9. I was to be the made man at that time. The club told me that, and maybe you just lack that wee bit, you know, a guidance for a centre forward. But I had that during the start of my career at Hibs, and you know, it's something what I'm proud of is my first stage at Hibs is probably the best I've played. you know, moving on in my career. You know, just before I moved to Locomotive, the 6-7 games before that, that's when I felt I was untouchable. Nobody could get near me. I was powerful. I felt that every time I got the ball, I could score, and that's an absolute great feeling to have. You know, when you're going out on the pitch and you're that confident. Yeah.
How was working with Bobby Williamson?
Bobby was all right. You know, he's. You look back on it now, you know, because I've got a lot of experience about life and football, and you know, Bobby wasn't, he's an old school coach. Mm-hmm. You know, it was hard for him. You know, he had managed Kilmarnock, and you know, I don't think he was a manager for the style of football we wanted to play. And it was still in the transition period. You know, I got on great with Bobby. I still do. I've spoke to him, you know, numerous times over the years. But just that fine detail and that kind of setup, you know, that's kind of, I found that quite tough to deal with when Bobby was in charge. But you know, as I said, he got the best out of me in times.
Okay, you encountered another manager who was maybe somewhat out of his element at this stage. Because your goal scoring run got you a Scotland call up in 2002 under Bertie McVotes. How surprised were you at 18 to get a Scotland call up?
Well, it was a shock. Obviously, I knew I was playing well. You know, for Hibs at the time. And before you get a Scotland call up, you know, you kind of know a month, 2 months before, because you know the gaffer will speak to you and say, look, the national manager's come to watch you. Mm. So it's up to you on the pitch to do your thing. And you know, Bertie was a character. You know, he was just funny. I'll tell you a story if you've got time. But before every national game, the night before, we were allowed to have 3 or 4 beers, or 2 whiskies, or 2 vodka and cokes, and that's the mentality what the Germans do. It gives them a good sleep, and we're all just looking at each other. You know what I mean? Have you got to get here? Your third beer, you're like feeling tipsy, and you know, you're like, what the hell's going on here? I've got a game tomorrow, international as well. So that was strange about it. But you know, Bertie seen something in me, and he's seen something in youth players. And if you look back at his philosophy, I think he had the right philosophy. I think the country just never gave him time, and maybe because he was a foreign manager as well. So I thought his tactics were spot on. You know, he was very intelligent, could speak on numerous languages, and you know, it was, you know, as football goes, it's a business, and it changes like that, doesn't it? It's conveyor belt.
Yeah, looking at youth philosophies then, back in Edinburgh, around that time, the Hibs team was really starting to be dominated by the golden generation. You were obviously the first. Mm-hmm. What are your memories of seeing the other boys break through?
The memories is you know, I knew it was going to happen. You know, I'd worked with these guys on the ground staff, as they call it. You know, back then it's academy football now, but it was just a bit surreal, because you could see that this team, you know, all these players had played with each other. You know, they had a good couple of years at the club, developing with each other. You used to have a 21 league as well, which was, you know, the players what didn't play on the Saturday, so the people on the bench, or the players what, you know, have played maybe 60 minutes, they'll play on the Monday. So you have 6 or 7 first team players, and then the rest made up. So you know, it kind of grew like that, and you know, we're playing against every team. You know, so if Hibs would play Celtic, the 21s would play them on the Monday, and we were going out scalping everybody. So you know, it was I kind of knew that these boys had a chance. You know, you look at some of their careers now, but you know, some of them have surprised me and went on. You know, look at Scott Brown; he's had a fantastic career. Thomas had a great career. You know, it's not quite happened for Deeks. You know, Fletcher's had another great career. You know, you can look at Caldwell, Ian Murray, Whittaker, Murphy. You know, fantastic, unreal. You know, and you had a lot of good players as well at that club, which they never got contracts and they never came through. But if I put them into academy football now, they would be tearing it up. you know, because that's how I kind of look. I'm not too keen on the structure of academy football. I think it needs to be changed at the moment. And Hibs haven't produced a player in a good number of years. So it's, you know, for to produce so many players like that, and then, you know, you're talking maybe 10, 15 years down the line, whereas it kind of went wrong for the club, because they need to be producing. They always produce a good striker, don't they? Hibs are known for that. You know, we didn't produce Cummins. He was from the other side, come to us, done well. So, you know, we'd like to see the clubs run fantastically just now, you know, but the only problem I have with the club is trying to push the players from academy football into the first team. You've got Murray and you've got the other little boy up front just now, but it's a massive step up for them, because they just play academy football. They should be put on loan, or they should be, you know, having more first team football. I know Lennon's used them in, you know, in the Betfred Cup, but, you know, I just look at them, they're quite skinny, you know, they're petite, you know, they're fast, they're strong, they're good players, but, you know, where is the kind of, where are we going wrong? That's just where I'm kind of looking at it at the moment.
Okay. Over the next couple of seasons, there's probably a general consensus that you struggled a wee bit for consistency those first couple of full seasons in the first team. Would that be fair to say?
Consistency, yeah. Consistency is hard, especially when you're young, and expectations put on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. You know, not for fans, but for the public. You know, for everyone, they're expecting your career to just go like that. You know, because I was that young, 18, and I played national football. You know, it was always ripped for me to just go projecting higher and higher and higher. And that's what happens with young players. Obviously now I've got a wiser head on my shoulders, and you know, that's what happens with young players. There's not going to be a consistency that just moving straight forward. It's always going to peak. You know, it's just natural in football. You know.
In amongst those seasons, talking about peaking, there was a last minute winner in a Edinburgh derby, Easter Road. What are your memories of that?
Well, that was a good time for me. You know, that's probably my favourite goal out of all, just because of the atmosphere, the time of the scoring, you know, the circumstances in the game. You know, and me being so young and maybe finding it hard to get a bit of form as well. You know, and coming on as a sub as well. And what it meant to the Hibs fans, you know, it really meant a lot there, because we were going through a sticky time. And, you know, scoring the derby in 94 minutes, the last kick of the ball, basically, it's just, you know, it's a feeling you get inside. It gives you goosebumps, and, you know, it's a strange feeling. So it's that's probably one of my best goals, and, you know, I think I kicked on after that as well.
Bobby left at the end of that season, of course, and was replaced by Tony Mowbray. Quite a big change in philosophy. Yeah. What was your first impression of Tony?
My first impression is, you know, what a person. You know, that's when Tony came into the room and spoke to the players, you got a sense of belief that you wanted to be managed by him, and you wanted to play for him. He just when his presence was brought into a room, he just seemed like he knew everything. You know, training methods were absolutely fantastic. Tony could get the best out of anybody. You know, he's proved that with his managerials, where he's been. You know, his skills, his training was up there with the best I've done. You know, everything was set up. You know, before you went onto that training pitch, everything must have been done to detail to Tony. You know, so you were going on to training, and you were treated like a proper professional, and that's why he moved so many of the young players onto good careers, because he developed them as well. With all the coaches before them, Tony really took us by the scruff of the neck, you know, and taught us how it would be, and really coached us and schooled us. You know, that's what I've got to say about Tony. What a fantastic job he done with Hibs.
It was under Tony that your on-the-field partnership with Derek Riordan really took off. I think you scored 42 goals together that first season under Tony. What was it like scoring goals with one of your best mates?
It's like heaven, isn't it? It's just it's fantastic. It's it's what me and Deeks always wanted to do, was play for Hibs. You know, it was something. You know, it didn't. When you go in as a young boy, 16, and you see these players which you've grew up in, you've watched, and you know that they're your heroes, but to actually make it through into the first team and playing for Hutchie Vale to Grant and to actually playing for Hibs as a club, you know, it's just it's actually sensational for what we done, you know, as a partnership. And Tony really seen the partnership for what it was. You know, what he told me and Deke was to, when we're on the ball, be so positive. You know, we want Gaz obviously to come back in and defend, because he knew Deke. He knew Deke wouldn't track back. So that's a quality manager. You know what I mean? He knows what he's going to play like, and I know every time I get that ball where Deke's is going to be. So it's a case of me just coming off, showing for the ball, and then he's always going to be in my right hand side. Deeks is never going to be over there, very occasionally. So in my head, I'm also a step ahead of the defender, because if I come and show and the defender stays off me, I know I'm just whipping into Deeks' feet and I'm moving into the box. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The partnership, that's just, you can't buy that. You know, you can't. It's because we played for you know, under 12s together all the way through, and we knew each other's move on the pitch. You know, it's like tap dancing. You're here and you're there, and we just knew each other so well, and I think it blossomed under Tony as well.
Were you competitive at all as goal scorers between the two of you?
Aye. Of course we were.
Did you say, was it just a competition to see who could score the most, or did you set each other targets or wind each other up a bit?
No, we never set each other targets, you know, but we would definitely wind each other up. Every single season, you know, me and Deeks we would challenge each other to see who got the most goals. Naturally, it would always be Deeks, because I would be assisting him, you know, and he would get the ball and he would just shoot. But what a talent, you know! You knew when you got Deeks on the ball close to that box, you knew that, you know, 6-7 times out of 10, you know, he's going to get one of them in for you. Yeah, and you know, we used to bet a wee bit of cash to see who would win, you know, and Deeks was always going to beat me, to be fair.
Was there ever a scenario where you're thinking you're edging up on him and there's a pass that doesn't come and you're thinking, that's in your head, that I'm about to score more than you?
Aye, it does. Funny enough, it does happen. And you know, I used to call Deeks for everything. You're a greedy, you know. We used to have serious arguments in the changing room and say, you know, you came what. Instead of trying to score for the corner flag, why do you not just place it into me, and I've got a tapping in the box running in, you know? So it would be heated at times. So yeah, aye, me and Deeks did do that. Yeah.
Right, on to more friendly times. Tell us about the weekly haircuts.
The weekly haircuts was it was just something, you know. Tony and Guy must have you know, they got in touch with the club, and you know, they used to give us free haircuts to go to Tony and Guy, and you know, Tony and Guy in George Street was a big name at the time. You know, it's not that we weren't making a lot of money at the club, because for young boys we were, but you know, a free haircut, who doesn't want a free haircut? You know what I mean?
So did it become like a weekly routine that you would all go together?
It would come. It wouldn't be planned as such, but it would be, you know, you would go on the Friday and you would bump into Scott Brown, or you'd bump into, you know, Deeks there, and you know, it would be like Hibs Friday at Tony and Guy. They used to have a wee card, and you used to go in, and you know, they used to get a free haircut and just, you know, tip them who done it.
Whose haircut was the shanest in your opinion?
Did it
be rat's tail?
That mohawk king with a rat's
tail. It went
tail.
like diagonally with a rat's tail.
An unreal man, wee rat boy. That's what I called him. Oh.
Right, on the golden generation, who do you think was the best?
Me, obviously. that's a given. No, I think if you're a player at your peak, or you know, in a team, and you're comfortable about it, you think you're the best player. That's just natural for any footballer. You have to have that belief in yourself, because in a career, the career can be a lonely place, and if you don't fully believe in yourself and your ability, you're broken. You can't succeed in football. You're going to have ups and downs in football, you know, as it's aware I've had, you know, and, off the field issues, you know. That's just natural in life, and you know, it's something where mine has been publicly known, but you know, other people's maybe not, and it still gets my back up a little bit, you know. But for the best player for me to play with was obviously Deeks, for his ability, you know, not for his work rate, but for his technical and his ability, and he never quite achieved what I thought he should have out of the game. And then I would go with Scott Brown and Kevin Thompson. You know, Tomo was always a better player than Scott. You know, Tomo was technically very gifted, top player. Had a wonder left foot. But Scotty's naturally progressed his career, and he's done an outstanding job. You know, when he first came into the Hibs team, he was a striker. You know, it was Tony Mowbray who moved him back into midfield. And that wee nasty streak, you know, what he had in his early on career, he's still got it now, and he's got a great name for it. You know, but his games came on massive. Every year he's peaked, and then, you know, I've been so fortunate to play with a lucky, you know, been lucky to play with so many good players. Could sit there and talk all night about the players and how good they were. You know, but Deeks, Scott Brown and Tomo, you know, they're definitely up there for me.
Moving on to your departure from Hibs, were you torn about leaving when you did, with the club still in the Scottish Cup and a Derby semi-final coming up?
It was one of them which the club had spoke to me privately. The club were in a wee bit of trouble. They need to balance the books. That's what it's kind of. If it wasn't coming in the March time when I moved, it was coming at the end of the season. You know, the club had knocked back 5, 6, 7 bids for me. Wasn't quite at the valuation the club had for me. You know, so it was a kind of every bid what came in, the club told me about as well, and asked me about. They were straightforward with me, and it always you know, entertained me to move abroad. It was always something I was wanting to do, but Russia, it was, you know, it was a strange one. But it was what Tony Mowbray said to me. He says, "Guys, he says this move will change you and your family's life. You know, there's a hell of a lot of money on the table being offered for the club, for you personally. You know, you'll go into 22, 23 grand a week, which is, you know, and it's net. You're not getting taxed on it. So it's a crazy amount, and the money didn't sway me. It was the way Tony was saying. He kind of was saying that I kind of was outgrown the club at that stage, that he couldn't hold me back. You know, I was like a dog on a chain, which he was just releasing gently. That's how he described it to me. And you know, I went away for a couple of days and spoke to my family and you know, my missus, and we spoke, and to put something back into the club what had developed me, and for the club needing it at that stage, you know, to build things, to put the infrastructure, to, you know, to help balance the books. It was something which I was prepared to do. You know, and it was, as you know, massive money. And it was just something that I was going to do, and I'd set my mind on it. And with Hibs being in a semi, I think if I'd stayed, I think we would have had a chance against Hearts. I think was Deeks suspended.
It's Brown was injured as well.
Brown,
and they just brought in Benji.
Aye.
That was Benji's first game, so it was Benji and Fletcher up front against that Hearts backline that had, I think, maybe Webster and
Presley,
Fisas.
Aye, so you know, that was nigh on. You know, especially with somebody like yourself, like you say, because I remember I think it was the quarter final, one of your last games, Falkirk away, 5-1, I think, and you scored.
Aye.
But like you say, I can remember like that team seemed just on their day.
Aye.
I mean, when we spoke to Kevin, he was like, you know, he's believed on any day you could go out and batter anybody.
Aye.
And that day was one of the days where you just absolutely steamrollered them.
That's what it was, and you know, that speaking what Tomo just said, we actually believed that. You know, we had a belief going to Celtic Park, going to Rangers, you know, going to Ibrox, and we actually believed that, you know, the gaffer would say to us, see if you get in here at 0-0, you'll beat them in the second half. We actually didn't believe what the gaffer was saying, getting at 0-0. We were going to get in the lead. We actually believed that as a group. And for a young team to actually believe that, you know, it's just having confidence in everybody around about you. And it was, definitely, I agree with what Tomo was saying.
Just to drop back a wee bit, the same season, what did you really say to Mowbray when he subbed you at Ibrox when Ivan Sproul came on?
I was going mental. Honestly, I says to him, I says, what are you doing, gaffer? I says, this is. I says, I swear to God, I'm just about to them. I'm like, they can't hold me back. You know, I'm like, I could tell that was it Kyriakos who was playing centre back. He was terrified in my pace. He was terrified in my strength, and I could tell they were getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And Tony, has been the manager that he is, he kind of knew that Sproul's pace.
Well, he was rapid. He was
going to hurt them. And I said to the gaffer, I said, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Plain and simple, you're an idiot.
You wanted it to be your pace that hurt them.
You're an idiot. I've played, 60, 70 minutes, and I've been working up to this stage of the game to go and get my goal. And, you know, Ivan goes on and scores a hat. Going up the tunnel, the gaffer looks at me and I just go, gaffer, fair dues. Shook his hands. I says, what I says to you is just, I'll take it back. He says, don't apologise. He says, that's my job, which was the right choice.
Yep,
definitely.
Indeed. How big was the culture shock in moving to Russia?
Massive. People don't understand it's not like here going to England or, you know, going to Spain where you know, English people go on holidays, or, you know, it's Russia. It's you know, these people are quite dark people. They're quite hard to you know, have a conversation with, to kind of to get into their level. You know, I understand now because, you know, I'm a wee bit experienced in what I've done, but it's to be at such a young age and not played, you know, a lot of football, and to go for a good transfer fee, there was a hell of a lot expected for me over in Russia. It's something where I settled down quite well because Lokomotiv was like a club which were, you know, so well organised. You know, they pumped so much money in. You know, they had a fantastic training base. It was like a 5-star hotel, and it was easy for me because I was just going into you know, into a football environment. Mm-hmm. What I can say is, you know, you eat, breathe and sleep football over there. If you're a professional football player, you have to be a professional football player. Your training's a lot harder. You'll stay in the training camp for 4 or 5 days. And that's basically why I left Russia. Actually, I really enjoyed it, but my wife fell pregnant again, and I had to think about the family and move on. And the club actually offered me a 7-year contract to stay with double my money, but there's situations where I just couldn't stay because, you know, the missus is at me. You know, you have to get a move to the UK. That was the only option for me.
Hypothetically, if you had been single, do you think you'd still be there now, coining it in?
I probably would. I probably wouldn't have moved. That's right. You know, because the club really liked me as a player. The managers were changing, but what it was the guy who brought me in, the chief executive. I think he's still at the club now. I think he's president at the club now. So he wasn't wanting me to move. He seen the potential in me. You know, he seen my potential growing in that club, in that environment. It was really hard because Russian's a tough language, and that's where I found it hard is in training and playing. You know, try to just even, you know, move into space and ask for the ball. You know, and try to say I'm in here. You know, and try. You're basically shouting in English, and you know, most of them spoke English anyway, but they would speak to Russian to you, you know, because you're in their country, which is right to do, you know.
You did move at that stage. You came back to Britain and you went to Birmingham. Was there any other offers for you at that stage?
Of course there was, yeah. There was offers for West Brom. There was offers for Fulham. I think there was an offer on the table for Arsenal, for Arsene Wenger.
What made you choose Birmingham and Steve Bruce at the time?
It wasn't me who chose it. It was the club who chose it.
Right.
The club were looking for the most amount of money, and that's what Birmingham paid. They paid the most amount of money. I think it came at 2.8 million. The club were due me 600 grand. So Locomotive were due me 600 grand. I had to give that back, so that was put onto the transfer fee. So it would go way over 3 million. So it ended up at roughly about 4 million euros. That's what they got for me. I'd spoke to Brucey on the phone. I'd spoke to a few players in England as well, which they've all got good things to say about Bruce. Steve, so it was kind of a no-brainer to play in the Premier League. They're just being promoted as well.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't too long till you were reunited with an old manager as well, because Alex McLeish came in. Was that nice to go for the culture shock and the sort of madness of Russia to now suddenly at Birmingham back in the UK with a manager who knows you incredibly well?
Yeah, it was a funny one because Steve had moved into Wigan. He had took the job at Wigan. It was kind of strange because he'd kind of built a squad, but if you look at it, he actually moved at the right time for his career. Mm-hmm. But it was Big Alex was my international manager, so I kind of knew about the deal before it had even happened, because he asked me what the club was like. When we were away on international duty, Andy Watson came to my room and says, "You've got to go meet the gaffer." I'm like, what am I going to go meet the gaffer for? Because any player in that situation is like, if the assistant comes to them, it's very rare that it happens and goes, the gaffer wants to speak to you.
You're thinking, what have you done?
What's going on here? You're either playing or you're getting binned or you've done something wrong to annoy somebody. So Alex asked me, I told him about the club, about the, how it was run, what the facilities were like, what the team was like as players, and the academy, the coaching staff. So in a way, I kind of brokered that deal as well, because I think I made Alex mind up to move to the club. And for Alex, he was a massive believer in me in my career. He done the right thing for me, in my career, in personal life and on the field. He was a manager who would come out to my house and we would sit in Blair and have a coffee. He would have a coffee or a cup of tea with my mum and my dad, my gran and granddad when they were there. And that was just how close we were as friends. He's your gaffer, but you were very close to him as well. And it's a massive thing for me having Alex, knowing what I could do on the pitch, coming to the Premier League, and it gave me a wee step ahead players as well.
Okay, on to the slightly negative side, England, unfortunately. The Dispatches programme that was released later was obviously about that time, and they stated on that programme that you were banned for 2 months while you were at Birmingham for failing a drug test. Firstly, just to clarify everything, was that information true?
I don't think it was true. I think I got banned for 3 months. So it was something what we had looked at, which I was going through in my life and personal issues. If you kind of, I'm actually bringing a book out at the moment. Okay. So that's just about getting finished off, and then it's getting published. So everything will be in there about my personal life. If you kind of look at it from a young boy from Port Seaton, right, whose career had just spiralled, it just projected so high. Moving things with my hand, and it's a radio station. But yeah, my career just kept on going higher and higher and higher, and it was at a stage where, where I'd grew up, it was kind of the in thing to do, was to do drugs. I wasn't ever addicted to drugs, but I would be, all my mates for school and that done them, and it was, to me, it was like the norm. But having a lot of money and being in the public eye and scoring goals and thinking you're untouchable at times, because you do think that, but You know, it was something when I felt at my lowest point, it was something that would bring me back up, and I'm sure a lot of people kind of agree on that with their own addictions, because everybody's different, you know, and it's something I've had to look at and address, because you know, people get the wrong impression of me. They think that you know, I was doing this drugs every single day. You know, I wouldn't go into training and ever have done that stuff. You know, I was a professional who would go in and do my work, and you know, work hard, never miss a day's training, do well on the Saturday. But it was the stages when I was struggling, you know, when I was injured. It was something that was there for me. You know, people turn to drink, people turn to drugs, people turn to other things. Mine was starting off with drink, and then I would get, you know, some drugs. They would be there for me, and it was always when I was low what I would do that, and I'll openly ever speak about it to anybody. You know, it's something I want to speak to and I want to express to people, because, you know, where I see myself now is trying to help footballers and try to help people as well to try and use something else which isn't negative. You know, it's I think in our society now it's rife. You know, it's and try and maybe, you see, when you're low, try and do some fitness or something like what I do myself now. But for me to be such a young player and just keep going on that, you know, on that road that I was on, you know, and that destruct button, it was kind of, it was obviously going to happen. Where, you know, I think when I was young, the advice I'd got, I never got advice on any of these issues. All people seen was the money, you know, the money side of it. That was seeing me as a robot and them making money, basically. There was no advice from agents, there was no advice for anybody before the problem got really bad. But as I say on record again, it's something which I was never addicted to. It was always when I was injured or I would do binging, you know. And it's something, I've got a mild case of depression as well. So, you know, it's kind of all the work I've done with psychologists and things like that. I have to channel my energy and my negative thinking into something. So it's my negative thinking is into fitness. Before, my negative thinking used to be into the drugs. So it's took me a lot of hard work to get to where I've got. You know, and it's you know, the people around about me, I've got a strong family. They've stuck with me, you know, through thick and thin, you know, through when I was making millions of pounds to losing everything financially. And that's probably, you know, the son comes out and does a piece which is completely wrong, you know, got stitched up there. You know, and I lost all my money because I invested in property, and it absolutely demolished me. I was paying out something like 60 grand a month, so my whole wages were gone, you know, on property. It's crazy figures, but that's just the kind of way it,
yeah.
You know. And if anybody wants any advice on any matters like that, you know, they can get in touch with me somehow. But I see myself helping people and trying to get rid of, you know, I got rid of my demons. It's a battle I'll fight every day for the rest of my life, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that for my family and my kids. And I'll openly speak to anybody about the matter, and hopefully I can help people as well.
Well, we appreciate you being so honest,
Aye.
Garry. Thanks very
You're
much for
welcome.
that. Right, let's get back to slightly more positive things, at least for a couple of minutes before we get to a certain game. Return to Easter Road came after that. Was the move to Hibs attractive because it gave you a chance to get your career back on track, or because it was an opportunity to get home, or both?
Well, it was kind of an opportunity which which I wasn't going to turn down. There was offers from England there, and with what we had just talked about, that dispatches programme, and with everything that was going on in my life, it was time to just take a chill pill, you know, and just chill out and just think about what's going on. I think when all that kind of came out, I was in my head in my transition. You know, it was like a transition period for me, coming back home, coming back to Hibs, but also trying to sort my life out. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like that was kind of the start of when I was trying to sort it out. It didn't happen until a wee bit later on. But it was kind of when I was starting there. I played that whole season with Hibs without touching a drink or anything like that. You know, so it was... that was and then maybe I fell off the wagon again a little bit when I left Hibs. But that was kind of the beginning of me kind of changing a little bit. It's a horrible time because as you're going to document that game.
A wee bit, yeah. When you went in, before we get there, Colin Calderwood was the manager. I didn't think people have that many fond memories of that time either. What was he like to work with?
Brilliant. Aye, really good. He was a coach similar to Tony Mowbray. I think he's maybe Tony's generation. So enthusiastic about the game. But you can turn around and I understand football. You know, that's all I know now. And you know, Colin would probably come out and say this himself. He's an assistant manager. He's not a manager. He doesn't quite have that. You know, that authority kind of thing figure. But his training outstanding, tactical. You know, a magician, really good. And time, me coming back to Hibs. I think that season I saved them because I had an all bad season and I got a good return of goals, and it was kind of coming building into that relegation. Pat Fenlon came in, who I got on all right with, but he had signed too many players in January. You know, there was boys coming in and there was not enough kit for them. That's how it was. You know,
so many lone players, so many central midfielders.
But it was even people coming on trial. Sometimes in training there would be like 40 players there. It was crazy, and to keep focused and, you know, to try and do the best thing for the team, for a club you love, and kind of knowing in the back of your head that this is all gone pear-shaped, because I kind of knew then, I kind of knew that we'd done so well to get to a cup final that you know, to survive against Dunfermline, you know, we'd done so well for that, and I didn't. When you go out to play against Hearts, you have to think you're going to win that game, you know, because it's a derby game. If you don't think you've got to go into that game and win it, you won't win the game. You have to win the battle. It's a battle first of all. If you win the battle, you've got 95% chance of winning that game. And I could see it in players' eyes that they weren't ready, that they were going to get beat, and I could see that in the dressing room and beforehand, and it was just. To get beat 5-1 was just horrible for me. That made my decision up right away that I was moving again, because it would just hurt me to be at Hibs again for the next season and to get shouted at 5-1 and all that. You know, I'd be getting sent off every week because it meant that much to me. It meant that much to me in the changing room, chucking my medal away. Well, got back but it's you know, it's something what really hurt me. You know, it was, and then going into that changing room and I just flipped my lid. You know, I started shouting at folk and pointing the finger, and the assistant manager and Pat was getting involved, and you know, Stacky was getting involved. You know, there's a few punches either way are thrown, and you know, that's what it should have been like before the game. You know, we should have been like that before the game, on top of each other, shouting at each other, telling them where to be. But it was just catastrophic. You know, to turn up on a game like such a massive occasion with all the expectation, and just no turn up, and just I put it down to players being afraid. You know, and the system we played was just, it was crazy. You know, players had actually never played in the system, and the tactics what Pat was trying to put onto us in a cup final was just, for me it was just crazy. We should have stuck to the way we were playing with the best players on the pitch, instead of trying to rush players back for injury, and try and stick at it, because Hearts were probably better than us at that stage.
Do you think that, obviously, because yourself and Lee Griffiths, Lee's obviously well documented, he's a massive Hibs fan yourself, been at the club before, coming back. I mean, I was thinking back last night, you've probably had a not too bad record against Hearts. Thinking off the top of my head, you've got the 93rd minute goal, the one at Tynecastle where the keeper spills it and there's that photo of you and Dean Shields in front of the away end. Obviously, you two boys being such big Hibs fans, do you think there was too much pressure coming for you to try and put onto these lone players? Like, there's folk I think of, like Matt Doherty, he was filmed. I don't know if it was yourself getting interviewed or maybe Ian Murray. He came down the stairs laughing. Do you know, did you put too much pressure on yourself with Lee to try and drum into these boys what this game actually meant to us?
It's a kind of fact where you've got myself, you've got Ian Murray, and you've got, you know, Sparky. Sparky wasn't too much of a voice because he was a young boy. Yeah, Sparky was basically, you know, I was trying to learn Sparky the trade. He being a striker. You know, he was so raw at that stage of his career. He was coming to training, you could see the ability and the talent he had, but his shooting just wasn't there. You know, sometimes I would stay behind and I would show him how to not just put the foot through the ball, but just to try and hit corners and try and, you know, hit as many balls as possible. And I put a lot of pressure on myself for that game, but the hype for the game was massive, and, you know, I nearly put the game down to getting beat 5-1 is because we never turned up and our tactics were not right to play against Hearts at that stage. And, you know, there's so many players in that squad which it was just impossible for us to gel together in such a period of time. And then you've got players like Ian Murray, who's been at the club, supports the club, Sparky, myself, you know, and you've got Stacky, who's been at the club for a long time. But that's really all the voices you've got. You maybe had about 4 voices, and you look at the opposite side, you look at Hearts, the voices they have. They had, you know, a lot of Scottish players, a lot of people, you know, black. They knew what derbies meant, you know. So it was it's a case they won the psychological battle plus the final, you know.
Okay, let's say one more positive memory from that towards the end of that season. You scored in the Cup semi-final against Aberdeen. Yeah. Scoring in the sun at Hampden in front of the Hibs fans on a successful day. What are your memories of that day?
It's great. It's, as I've said before, it's where Hibs belong. You know, Hibs are a massive club. You know, you get all this rife. You know, the second club in Edinburgh. Hibs are a bigger club in Hearts. You know, I'm telling you, Hibs are a bigger club in Hearts. Financially, we're a bigger club in Hearts. We're ran so much better. Infrastructure is much better. You know, our training ground, it's our own training ground. You know, our stadium, you know, it's fantastic. We've got the right people in at the club at this moment in time. You know, that's with the manager as well. And you know, they're playing the kind of brand what we want to play, and there's a few players touching the first team for the academy as well, which is a good thing. And you know, it's to be a Hibs fan, it's to sell as much season tickets as they have at the moment. There's a lot of pressure on the players as well to provide, you know, good quality on that pitch. He needs to keep a hold of John McGinn. If he goes, it's massive boots to fill. You know, so looking at it, you know, Hibs are on the up for me, and you know, it's definitely where Hibs belong is you know, back in that SPL, and for me, you know, scoring, you know, at Hampden, that just came natural to me because, you know, that's what I done, you know, score and set goals up, and to score in a semi-final to put us in the final, it's the best feeling. But it's not, you want to get your hands on that trophy. It's the worst way to win in a cup final. You know, it's the worst way to win. I had success at Locomotive and at Birmingham with the Carling Cup. But to lose to Hearts, it's just it still haunts you to this day.
You mentioned that after that game your mind was made up that you were going. Was that what happened? Did you just simply go? Did you speak to Rod Petrie or did you speak to Pat Fenlon? Or
I never spoke to any of them. It was made up in my mind as going home on the bus, that I couldn't toil. Felt that I'd let the club down. You know, felt that it was an easy escape for me to move on. I knew that there was clubs after me in England, and there was clubs abroad in Germany and Russia. I probably went to the furthest place. Horrible place, to be fair. You know, it's absolute nothing there, and it was like 40 years back to what we are like up here. You know, it's just so it kind of gave me a little bit, you know, comfort in a way to go and, you know, do my own thinking and go and play football in a different kind of environment again. I kind of knew what Russian football was like, but yeah, it was definitely made up. There was a contract on the table for me at Hibs. You know, that was obviously sure they were wanting me to be their main man. You know, and everything I'd done for the club, it was a really good contract. But you know, I'd said to Rod, you know, eventually, and I never really spoke to Pat Fernand. I spoke to Rod. Says, look, I'm going to do this, and me and Rod got on great. We've got a good relationship, and he was trying to persuade me to stay, but you know, my mind was made up.
Okay, before we wrap up, Gary, can we get a wee bit just on why Selkirk, and how did you find playing as someone who's played at the highest level in this country, at the highest level in England, in Russia at an extremely high level international? How did you find the Lowland League?
It's a good league, to be fair. You know, the Lowland League. It's basically what I call it is the third division. You know, it's the old third division. So it's basically it's not involved with the Scottish game, you know, but it basically is the third division, you know, because you can get that pyramid system. Yeah. The thing was with Selkirk is the manager at the time of Selkirk was a close friend to me. He still is a close friend. So it was. I don't know if this is documented about me, but you know, when I'd went to Tomsk and I'd done the pre-season. The club were under a transfer embargo for not paying players the season before. It was about 9 games down the line before I'd been to get on the pitch. So it was like 3.5 months to 4 months sitting doing nothing. You know, I mean, going to training, doing double sessions, being in a foreign country miles away, my wife being at home. The worst thing, and it's still the worst thing to this day, is I never got a penny out of them. They never pay my wages. So that's kind of why I started getting financial troubles as well. And through all of that, I just fell out of love with football. Just completely fell out of love with the game because of the way I'd been treated, the way I was thinking. And there was offers there for me when I'd come back from Tomsk, but I just cut my ties with everybody, my whole network of football. And I just said, you know what, it's not worth it. Not worth it. And you know, then I kind of, you know, I hadn't done anything. I went into Morton, which my heart wasn't in it. You know, it was just to do a favour for a friend. You know, Kenny Shields was a good friend. I knew him since Dean was at the club. So I was trying to do him a favour, but I'd not played for 2 years. So it was always going to be it would take me about, realistically, to get match fit to where I wanted to be, it would have took me 6 months to where I wanted to be. I'd need a really good pre-season and a run of games. So I'd had two weeks to do some running and then try to get them out of relegation. It was never going to happen. Plus my heart wasn't in it. And the Selkirk thing was a friend again, and I'd kind of done a lot of thinking in my life. Took a bit of time out. Along the way I'd had offers as well to go back into professional football, but I kind of seen where I wanted to go on. My next path was to go into coaching, and Selkirk were going to provide that. You know, they were going to provide me to go for my B and my A licence. They would have paid for it, and I was going to be a coach at the club. So it never really fazed me to go to a level like that, because as you say, you have to start it somewhere. And it was a positive time for me because I played for a season, scored about 30 goals I think for them. Going into the next season, the manager got the sack. They just gave me the job there and then. I never even thought about it. Probably shouldn't have took the job. It was too early for me. I hadn't even completed my B licence at the time. So you know, it was one of them. I was doing a favour for my mate, but I was wanting to get back into the game as well. So that's how it kind of came about.
You mentioned getting your first taste of management there. Is that something that you would like to do more of going forward?
Yeah, it's something what's planned. I've actually got my own academy, like Tomo's got his. You know, me and Tomo speak quite a lot, and me and Tomo speak about that the coaching in this country is not to a level what it should be. You know, I've went away and played in Russia and, you know, seen what youth coaches do over there, and played in England and see what the youth coaches have done over there. I think it's, you know, you're getting people going and taking sessions which just aren't qualified for their jobs. So it's kind of like I'm setting my own academy up to be different. You know, there's been offers there for Hibs to go into the academy. There's been other offers to take managerial roles up, but they're not quite right for me at this moment. I'm going to do a showcase in November. I've already done one with an agent. It's basically for players who are out of contract, or it's for players who are, you know, been bombed for clubs. So, you know, if they've been at Hibs and they've not got another contract, or, you know, I think we've got somebody for Ajax coming who never got a contract over there. So it's worldwide. They're going to come to Scotland. They're going to train for 12 days, and we're going to play friendlies against Hibs, Hearts, you know, Edinburgh City, and maybe Celtic. You know, one of the big old firms. So it's something what I'm focused on doing, is try to set this up. It's not just footballing based, it's also psychological based stuff as well. Although I've not got qualifications on that, I think I'm well, you know, clued up on the matter. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's maybe try to give people help on that aspect of it as well. And obviously, as a business, you know, I wanted to try and be successful going on forward, but I wanted to go slowly, you know, and things just to go how they're going just now. I'm not quite ready to go into youth football, or, you know, to go in and learn my trade and go into management. I want a wee bit more experience before I do that. Okay,
thank you very much for all of that. Just before we wrap up, you mentioned a couple of times, you know, that there's been off-field issues throughout your past, and that you feel like you've learned from them all. Is that all past you now? Obviously, it's a day-to-day struggle with certain aspects of it, but do you feel like you're now in a position where you're going to move forward and do the right things ahead of you?
That's it. You know, there's been, you know, in my life, there's been so many ups, there's been so many downs, you know, and I've been stitched up massively along the way, and that's the society we're living in. But this is the most confident I've been, and in my own sobriety, or whatever you want to call it. Mentally, I'm nearly strong now as well, because, as you say, that period of coming back with Tomsk, and then maybe the beginning of Selkirk, you know, I was still going through a lot of problems and emotions psychologically. You know, I wasn't quite ready at that stage. So you probably know that I speak to a psychologist. You know, I speak to people about my issues, my problems, and you know, something I do regularly is speak to someone. And as they say, you know, everyone's just human beings. That's how I see it. You know, and everything I've done in my life has been a massive experience for me. It's I see my life as being successful, and now I see my life as you know, maybe going out to try and help people as well. You know, because why did God put me on this planet? Why did He put you on this planet? You know, it's something with age that I've grew up, and you know, I've managed to capture, and to focus on my family, to focus on other things, you know, such as my business, my academy. I've got other things going on with business as well. But yeah, I think I've got a hold of my demons. But as I'll say in rehab or whatever you go into, it's day by day you move forward, and that's kind of where I'm at. Is just try to move day by day. You are probably aware as well, society in East Lothian and Edinburgh, and you know, there's too much drugs and all that going on. You know, I've got 3 young kids myself, and and you know, I've had the talks with my oldest one. You know, he's come to me and said to me, you know, well, what were you in the papers for this? I've been straight and honest with him, you know, and that's it's what I can do now. It's not what I've done or, you know, where I'm at. It's what I can do for my family and do for myself now. And I think positively. I don't think negatively, because negative stuff just, as you know, with my recovery, usually ends up in something I don't want to do. So it's all positive thinking I've got, and that's the way I plan to live life now.
Garry, thank you very much for your time and for your honesty.
Very welcome. Yeah,
Cheers.
very welcome, mate. Cheers. Enjoyed that.